Okay, I'm going to open the meeting of the Ad Hoc Grant Search Committee for May 19th, 2021. We are still meeting by Zoom, and we have with us today the grant committee members Diana Fetterman and Caitlin Rooks, and myself, Chris Fowles, and we have invited guests, Randall Kemp, our highway superintendent, Ian Illingsworth, our police chief, Robert Floyd from the Cemetery Commission, and Bob Kozub from the Historical Commission, and Rick Bryant representing Stantec, who is the likely TA for this possibility of the Shared Streets Spaces grant. And I think we will just try to jump in and make this the first agenda item. We will forego any minutes and other things in the past. We have a very short window to try and get this grant done. So I'd like to devote most of our discussion, at least for the half hour or so, on this grant and the things that we've been doing. I filled in Diana and Kate a bit in terms of the work that's already been done with Mass DOT jumping in to meet us on a phone call yesterday to just sort of see what we were talking about. And then for Bob and Robert, Stantec is a civil engineering firm based out of Boston, but with an office in Northampton. And Rick actually lives in Amherst, and they would be free technical assistance to help put this grant proposal together. They are paid through a grant from the Bar Foundation. So it's free technical assistance to the town to help do a design, some cost estimates, and even help us with the application. So this has really all come together within probably the last 5 days that this has all been floating around here. So conceptually, what we have been talking about, Ian and Randall and I had brought out the idea of making a connection for our missing little piece of sidewalk between Pomeroy Meadow and High Street, which obviously takes it right in front of the cemetery. It's about 900 feet. And that would then connect all of our walking network around Pomeroy Meadow and the sidewalks up toward Cumbies, and then all the way down to the Town Hall, Senior Center, Conant Park. So that was the concept, to see if we could get a grant for this small portion to put in a fairly simple sidewalk per se. So I think what I'll do, if that's okay, could I let maybe Rick explain a little bit? He was just out here. I ran into him literally about 45 minutes ago. He was just here at the cemetery and whizzed his way back to Amherst in time here to be on the call. So Rick, why don't we let you talk about some of the things that you're thinking, and especially for our folks from Historical and Cemetery Commission, just to talk a bit about you know, the placement of things and all that sort of idea, and then certainly we'll open it up for questions that they may have. Okay, but I'd like to give you the chance to talk about the concept in more detail, since you've seen it now and understand a little bit what's going on better than yesterday. And Ed Gibson, our town administrator, is joining in right now as well. So just we've got a full house. So Rick, let me turn it over to you for a few minutes.
Okay, I'll grab the screen share and show the concept we developed.
Okay. You can share the screen, or yeah. Or okay. I can. I have it up as well, Rick.
Let me get to. Is the concept showing now? I'm not sure
not yet. Not yet. Nope. Let's see. No, it's not. I've got the photo that you just took.
Okay.
But you want the other thing? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, hold on a minute.
I think I'm just slow getting through this screen share here.
Okay, I'm not sure. There you go. Okay, it's showing now. Yes.
Okay, great. So just on an aerial photo, we mapped out the basic concept, and this was prepared to inform a conversation with Mass DOT in that most of what we build out here will be within the state highway layout. So we're doing work on their land and we need their permission to do this work. And based on the conversation yesterday, they're on board with that. What we're showing is where the basic sidewalk ends at Pomeroy Meadow to continue south across the Party Balloon Place driveway to the cemetery and continue through the two driveways into the cemetery, excuse me, yeah, two driveways into the cemetery, and then try to line up at the High Street to meet up with the existing sidewalk on the south side. Standard sidewalk width is 5 feet, so we'd be looking to do just that using bituminous concrete, which matches what's used elsewhere, other than up here is the shared use path, that's bituminous. You've got cement concrete at the ramps. We would probably introduce that at the ramps for the driveways and the High Street crossing as well, but the material is basically bituminous asphalt. Where this shared use path is and where we're fairly close to the road, there's vertical granite curbing, and that's basically to keep the cars on the road and not hitting people on the sidewalk. Through this section, we're looking to keep the path at least 5 feet from the edge of the travelway. So there's going to be a green belt or buffer strip in there, which we believe would eliminate the need to have to do vertical granite curbing out along the edge of the roadway to contain cars. So there is some asphalt berm on a section of the road right now down through here. That's mainly there for drainage purposes. We may continue that along the whole length of the project, but drainage may actually work better if we just leave that out and keep our walkway separated from the roadway. We're showing this right now 5 foot off the roadway. The reality is we'd want to follow the existing contours of the land. And while it's generally flat, there's a few little bits of ups and downs in there so we want to follow the natural contours, and there may not be a straight sidewalk, but perfectly straight, but very close to, and again, working away from the very high and the very low points. And if I could give up the screen, because I don't have the photo on my desktop yet, but Chris, there's the one spot where we're going to have to get fancy with this. It relates to a drop inlet, which is right about here. But basically, stormwater that's coming off of the highway and in that lawn area collects to a low spot. There's a storm drain grate, and the water goes into a catch basin there. I'm assuming it's connected to a pipe that probably takes it across the road where there's other catch basins and takes the water away. So there's a structure there basically that we need to work around.
Okay, so if you stop sharing, Rick, then I can pull it up. Okay, let's see if I can grab the photo you just sent here. There you go. Okay.
And yes, so let me. So
You scroll
yeah,
down.
There we go.
So there's the structure we're talking about. And again, I just got back from the field to kind of locate all these things. I got the tape measure out, and you can see from the structure now is so-called protected by what might be considered bollards, but not very well. Those were almost hazards in the edge of the road there. But the road slopes down to that low point and that inlet that collects the water. And clearly, if we try to put the walkway to the left of that in the picture on the roadside, we'd cutting into the slope, and we'd have to do a lot of regrading to make it fit. On the other hand, if we go to the cemetery side of it to the right, it's very flat through there, and that would be the easiest route to get past this. And we have about 7 feet between the edge of that concrete inlet in the fence. Again, we're looking to do a 5-foot walk, which is a typical standard. And that would leave us, we put it right up tight to the catch basin so that we'd still have 2-foot separation to the fence. And that would be as close as we would ever get to the fence for the project. Everywhere else, we'd be pulling this walkway away from the fence and closer to the road. So that's the intent. At this point, again, we're putting in a grant application. We don't have to have all the answers at this point. We just need to be confident that we can build this and put a rough budget together so that if we get the grant, there is enough money to build it. So those are the issues. DOT has asked us, to get sign off basically from abutters along the project. So it's the cemetery and it's the party balloon place. And again, there's no final plan yet, just an intent, but we're looking for support for the project at this point. So that when we go to DOT and ask for the money, they know it's a project that can get built because we don't have abutters who are going to protest.
Okay. So thanks for that. And we've lost you on video. I don't know if you want to put your own video back on. If not, that's fine. But how about if I turn to maybe Robert and or Bob, if you've got some questions from either the Historical Commission or the Cemetery Commission side of things?
From the historical point of view, it is a National Register cemetery, so certainly what would be put in there should fit the nature of the cemetery itself. The one spot, Rick, that you were talking about there with that drain, incidentally, I live right across the street.
Okay.
The one spot where that drain is there, Randall, you can probably fill in more on this, but I know for the state that has, or for the Cemetery Commission, that has somewhat been a problem because of deterioration of that iron fence, which is in itself an old fence. The deterioration in that section has always been more of a problem than the rest of it because of the accumulation of the salt and et cetera, that gets put on the road. And with that low spot there, seems to accumulate and make the fence more susceptible. So I think you identified an area there that is probably somewhat of a little problem. I don't think it's a big one, Randall, unless you think differently.
I don't think a sidewalk would have any effect on making it worse or better.
Yeah, we would want to put a slight pitch to the sidewalk so that it would be draining from the cemetery fence towards the catch basins there. But it probably naturally slopes that way now, but we'd be design the sidewalk so it does have that cross slope.
Which might make it better, you're saying, right?
Yeah.
It could move the water away from the fence more quickly.
I'm going to guess that any deterioration is due to the sand and salt within the snow being plowed off the road and onto the fence directly. So
yeah,
rather than like sitting in a pool or anything.
Yeah,
that would be my guess.
You're right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. And Robert, any thoughts from the Cemetery Commission?
Yeah, Bob articulated it better than I could attempt to. The Cemetery Commission didn't have an opportunity to meet to discuss this, but our concern is the fence. And we're in our second year of volunteers painting and trying to, it's corroded in many areas. I like hearing the idea of the recognition of the concept of it pitching. I think it's a cumulative. I think it's the water flow. I think it's the snow, sand and salt, all of the above. So certainly for us, it would be a recognition that it needs to be a high concern. There's also a tree further south. Are the intent designed to go around the tree?
Yeah, I took some measurements there this afternoon, and there's room to get around the tree.
Okay, good.
And we would be on the road side of the tree, so we're not
Yeah, there's
tight
no
against the
room,
fence
there's
there.
no room on that.
Mhm, mhm. So the one place, if I'm understanding, Rick, the one place that would be closest to the fence and the only place is around that catch basin.
Correct.
Okay.
And at the very southern end at High Street, we would like to line the end of the sidewalk up with the sidewalk to the south, the existing sidewalk. We don't necessarily have to cross High Street at 90 degrees. We could angle it a little bit if we had to keep the walk away from the fence at that point, but that would be the other spot where we'd be closest to the fence. And even there, we're probably still going to be 4 or 5 feet off.
Rick, did you see the what I was alluding to as far as grade up towards the northern section, where it kind of drops off down to the cemetery? Did you have any concerns with being able to match that grade and keeping the sidewalk close to the road at all?
We would, because of the grade, I think we'd prefer to pull the sidewalk away from the road and get it.
Okay.
Try to follow the contours and get to where we have the flattest terrain.
Right. So there
so that
would
we're
be not on the street side, but I believe it's like a pie piece that gets wider because the fence goes straight and the road curves. So
Right.
you probably have more to work with.
I think we do. There's a fire hydrant and another drop inlet up at the triangle there where the party balloon store is, and that is all sitting way back from the edge of the road. So my guess is the right of way probably straight across, probably follows the line of the cemetery fence and goes straight across to Pomeroy Meadow. And we have, my guess is there's a big triangle of land there we have to work with within the state layout. We're in the process of trying to retrieve the state's record plans for the roads. We'll have hopefully in the next day or so, have a better sense of where that right-of-way line lands.
Great.
Okay.
Randall, dare I ask, does that present a problem for keeping that free of snow during the winter, or?
Does what create a problem?
Do you do the other section now, High Street down? Is that done by your people?
The sidewalk.
We only do the town-owned portion of the sidewalk, which is, if you're familiar, there's a little chain link section
Yep.
right at the bottom of the hill.
Yep.
The town owns from approximately there up to the fire station. There's a
Yeah.
parcel of land that we do. And that's not ideal. That's pretty narrow. So I wouldn't think
Yeah.
that further, I mean, it's going to cost more money, but there's a cost benefit here that I think making the town more pedestrian friendly is the direction we want to go as a town.
Right. Okay.
So then would this be a sidewalk that the town would plow in the winter? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think the cemetery commission, Robert, you have a snow blower, right?
No,
I'm just kidding. Yes.
I've never
the
used
town-
one. I'm not
the town
allowed
owns-
around
the town
power
owns the
machinery.
frontage. The town would be responsible for
Okay.
clearing that section, which
Good
I've
call.
already,
Nice try.
Uh-huh. Okay, good. Good.
But
good.
again, there's a cost benefit there, and I think connecting these two
Yeah.
networks of sidewalks is advantageous.
And Rick, you were saying that, there is a portion from the south gate downward to High Street that has the bituminous berm now. But you were thinking that the northern part might not need that, even though DOT was kind of recommending that yesterday.
Correct. The way the pitch of the road is, and part of it's on a curve, so it's super elevated, so the whole road is kind of slanted. If you consider the road north-south, it's slanted west to east. So the water wants to go to the other side of the road right now.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much throughout that entire section north of the existing berm. And that presumably that's why the berm stops. From the berm south, water wants to flow towards the cemetery, so the berm collects the water at the edge of the pavement, edge of the road, and carries it down the hill to a catch basin that's right next to High Street. So the berm has a purpose from a stormwater perspective on the southern end of this project.
Mm-hmm.
That same purpose doesn't exist, or need doesn't exist at the northern end. So as we mentioned the field, this DOT brought up the idea of continuing the berm. I think they were thinking more in terms of protecting the sidewalk from vehicular traffic, much like the vertical granite curb does elsewhere along the roadway. But I think with the offset that we have, that's not an issue, nor do I think the bituminous curb that's there for drainage is much of a factor in terms of keeping cars on the road.
Yeah,
if
probably
we're
not
really doing it for protection,
Yeah.
it would be in vertical granite. That would create issues to get that 6-inch reveal, which you typically have with vertical granite. You want it 6 inches above the road. Now you have to put material behind it to create that reveal. So that's a big endeavor that seems to be entirely unnecessary.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So as you're thinking about budgeting, would you budget in the berm anyway, and then hope we could not do it when we get to construction?
Exactly. The state will give you money up front to build this thing. If there's elements that at the end of the day you find don't make sense and don't get built, then you need to give the money, some of the money back to the state to compensate for the smaller project.
Right. Okay.
And we have, again, the grant application goes in Friday. It's typically about a month turnaround time till you know whether you're getting the money. And I think construction needs to be done by the end of the year. So there's plenty of time after Friday for us to figure out with Mass DOT whether or not there needs to be a berm here.
Right. Okay. And I think, they said that if the project was done by early September, then we'd get a bonus point on our application. But I think December is really more realistic. So
well, I mean, again, we're trying to come up with a design that makes this pretty. I say design. Technically it won't be construction drawings. It's a book job, but I think we choose a concept and an alignment that's fairly straightforward. And hopefully something that you can get done by the early deadline and get your bonus points.
Yeah. Okay.
It worried me
me
a little bit yesterday when they were talking about everything having to comply with state spec. Rick, do you think that's going to be a problem at all? I know when we just redid Glendale Road, there was a lot of review process. I just wanted to be prepared in case they throw anything strange at us.
Yeah, we had that conversation internally here this morning. Some of the folks who were helping me work up the cost estimate were scratching their heads saying, this isn't how DOT does this. We need to give them a 25% design plan, a 75% design plan, 100% design. You're a year getting plans reviewed.
Yeah, that's
and I said, that's typical, but this particular program
Yep.
is really geared to quick build projects, and the state recognizes they have to kind of work around their usual procedures here. And what we've offered to them is that they have standard specifications on what a 5-foot bituminous sidewalk is comprised of. How many inches of asphalt, how many inches of gravel underneath, the compaction, all the things that they have as standard. We would comply with that. They just wouldn't see it everything on a drawing beforehand. But the materials that we're using, how they're being placed, all of that would be to their standards. And again, from walking it this afternoon, I think we have the room to do everything according to their standards. It's not like there were trees or grade issues or places where we'd have to go less than 5 feet or encounter some steep grades that would provide some special design treatments. It's looking pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good news.
Yeah.
Rick, do we need a certified design plan though from a civil engineer? Wasn't that a requirement?
That's not happening.
So it's not. Oh, I thought that was going to be a requirement that we had to submit to them. No, because they said I think 10% of the grant could go towards the design, right?
Correct. But for that money, you're not going to do the design drawings that they would typically look at and review through their standard permit review process. This is going to be more of a streamlined, expedited process where we're looking to put the request in for the 10% design, just because when it comes time to build this, you may want an engineer out there with the contractor, with Mass DOT, and maybe a can of spray paint, and you just do like I did today and walk it with the spray can and say, here's where it's going to go.
Okay, so that's accepted. My question, I think that's more of a question. So that's going to be accepted by the state.
Yeah. Well, that was the foremost thing in my mind on the call yesterday with DOT is this isn't the way you guys normally do things. Are you okay with us just telling you, here's the rough alignment, here's the design details in terms of what's going in the ground, but there's no construction plan. And they seem to understand that that's the way this is going to go.
Do you think this will fit within the budget or the max grant award? What was it, $200,000 or something, Chris?
Yeah, I think we were thinking less than 100, right, Rick?
I think so.
Oh,
yeah.
One of the things just on a budgetary issue that might not be considered is obviously it's on a state road. They're going to require probably 2 detail officers because the shoulder of the road is going to be, and however long that project's going to last, that will add up.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure we factor that in there.
that's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's one of the things we're going to have to give to DOT. Independent of this kind of expedited review process, they're still going to require an access permit, which your contractor will have in hand that allows him onto state property. And as part of that permit application, he needs to submit a standard document in terms of how he's going to manage traffic flow, recognizing he's probably occupying the shoulder of the road while he's building this. And that would include the details and all of that. So we will put that in the budget as well, the cost to put the plan together and to fund the details and traffic cones and barrels that the contractor is going to have. Yeah.
So just, is there a cost for the access permit itself?
There's typically a permit application fee. It's fairly modest and it may in fact be waived in this case.
Okay. Yeah.
You're taking money from Mass DOT one pot and giving it back to them.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
And then do you need to know anything, say, from Ian in terms of the police rate detail, et cetera, for the budget, or?
It would be helpful if you.
Absolutely. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I think it's important because that could turn out to be thousands of dollars,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we would typically pick the number as a percentage of the construction cost. That's what Mass DOT is used to seeing. But if you've got specific rates you can share with us, and
Yes, I will.
you can just kind of double check to see if that puts us in the ballpark.
Okay, good. Does anybody have any questions? Any other questions? Anybody?
Just about who would talk to party patrol. I mean, there's people cutting through their property. I'm one of them, right? So I walked down that sidewalk and I cut through their property, and I'm hopeful that they won't really object to the idea of having a sidewalk there, but you know, maybe we should designate who's going to communicate with them.
Yeah, I don't have a problem doing that.
Okay, well,
I got pretty used to negotiating with residents when we did the safe routes to school on Route 10 and Glendale.
mhm.
And so we don't need a right of entry from them. We just need to give them a heads up that this is the intent.
Just a hug letter, as I call it, just it could be even email or something, just coming back from them saying we're aware of your intent to build a sidewalk across our frontage and we're in support of this concept.
Okay.
Something like that to share as part of our application raises comfort level of DOT and confidence in giving us grant money.
Would we
Okay.
need one from the Cemetery Commission as well for endorsement, or is the fact that they're part of the municipal organization sufficient?
One or the other, either a letter from them or a statement from the town. It could be part of the application where we just say that this is property that's in the control of the town and doesn't require permission from the cemetery.
Okay.
Mhm. All right. So
Adding
there,
that to your agenda, Robert.
Yeah,
Thank
okay.
you.
And do we need these letters with the application, or we've got time in June to do that?
I would put them in the application.
Okay. So Robert, is there a way to get that before Friday or?
this being Wednesday, no, because we need 48 hours notice to have a meeting. So whatever time it is now, that would be the time of the meeting, the earliest.
Yeah.
Near the
Could we get one from the town administrator, for example, and then have a follow-up one with, if say cemetery folks could meet on Monday, for example, have a follow-up letter to add to the application afterwards, or would that work? Rick, would that work?
Yes, we can amend the application. And amending it within the first few days review is ideal.
Okay.
Yeah, if we can submit the application with statements in there, basically making DOT confident that there's no abutter opposition, then that is favorable for the review of the application. If for a chance they question that and we have more evidence that comes in a few days later, you know, written testimony from the cemetery and the party place, then that's very helpful too.
Okay. And do the abutters include people across Route 10?
No, I do not believe we need to include them.
Okay. We have 2 of them, of 3 here right now, actually. Grindstone.
Certainly, if they want to submit a letter of support, that's good too. Anyone in the community who wants to
I'll
write
write a letter of support. I walk that way frequently, so. I mean, I feel like I'm biased, but.
So, if you're a user of the system, then that's great.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So we would need to get whatever letters we can get. And if you had any specific language you'd like us to use, Rick, maybe you could just shoot that out in an email or something. But we'll look for something from
The
Ed, at
people on
least.
the open space and recreation update, maybe, but
Yeah.
Anybody on there could write a letter?
I think they could. They may end up doing it as individuals because you won't be meeting in time.
Right.
But
I could try to get a couple letters of support from people who are in town.
Yeah. And we've got Diana, you're on the Open Space Committee, so we could let Cindy know, and maybe we could get just a couple letters there, because it does tie into one of the goals and strategies in the open space plan.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
So if you're doing it as an individual, can you still say at the bottom, member of the Open Space Committee or not?
I think you could. I think you're speaking for yourself, but you can acknowledge that you are a member of the committee. Am I right on that, Ed? Does that make sense? That you're not speaking for the committee, you're speaking for yourself, but you are
Well,
a member of the committee, or?
well, the question would become, are you actually leading to that letter, trying to lead to that letter actually coming on behalf of the committee, which it isn't. So I think you're better off leaving that out.
Okay, just as an individual. Okay, but we could, I mean, whenever the next open space meeting is, we could ask them for a letter, which we could always send in after the fact. They're probably not meeting for another week or so, right?
June
Right.
10th.
June 10th, yeah. So, but that's before the awards are decided, so that would be possible. And anybody else, I don't know. Bob,
I'll
with
reach out to
historical?
Eliza Pluta from the school and see if she
That's a
can.
good idea.
Okay,
Or how
Great.
about the director of the council, the Council on Aging?
yep. And Joan happens to be tuned in here. I don't know that she's actually totally with us, but
On
we
the call.
we could grab her to do something too. So basically, though, we just need to say that, give us some idea of language again, Rick, please. Just that we're aware of the town's intent to establish the sidewalk connection between Pomeroy Meadow Road and High Street. And we're in support of this because it would increase the walking circuit. Whatever.
Right, and that's fine, and however it affects the specific organization. If it's the aging group, it's, because it provides access to the senior center. If it's the open space, it's because it's part of our open space plan. If it's the schools, it's because it connects people to the schools.
Yeah. Okay.
And those are all kind of extras. I mean, it's good to have. The critical
Yeah.
ones, again, are just the abutters, and those don't have to be advocacy per se. They just have to state they're not in opposition to.
Yeah,
to,
that they're aware of it happening.
aware and if they willing to say support, or at least they not in opposition to the proposed action, or have no
Okay.
objection to the proposed actions.
Okay. So if I could be the central point of collection of all those letters of support, okay? And then I will get them to Rick. All right,
Sounds good.
all right,
When does it have to be done by?
by
Friday.
Friday morning. So
Of this
tomorrow-
week?
Tomorrow, yes. That's why we're doing this grant first, Joan. They're ahead of you in terms of deadline.
Is it electronic
um,
submittal?
So
I'm
what?
glad to do a letter of support because in a age-friendly walkability is part of the age-friendly movement, is to have walkability and to have safe sidewalks.
Great, okay. So an email would be fine if it's not a letter, right, Rick? Is that right?
That's fine.
Yep.
So it's all electronic submissions, so
Yeah, so whatever
anything
you,
we can, any PDFs, whatever we can attach to the
Yep.
application. Fine.
whatever you're comfortable with. Okay, good. All right,
Send it to you, Chris?
yes, please.
Who to send it to? Okay.
To me, yeah. Okay, and I think, Rick, just a couple of last ones. So I was gonna try and divide up on the application a couple questions that we could be working on. There's some technical things that I know you have to work on. Do you want to do like a first draft of what you can do and then tell us what you can't do? Or are there questions that you might not be able to answer that we should try to answer, or? Just so we can-
Let me, yeah, I'll coordinate with you
Okay,
on that.
Just so we can-
Fine.
check that out, because you can, remind me, you can actually get in online and submit this, right? Or do I have to, or we have to?
I think you want to do it at the end of the day, but we've
Okay,
got templates we've used on these, and we can have it all put together in a Word document that you just cut and paste into the online form
I
and
see.
submit for the town. That's how we've typically done it.
Okay,
And I'll catch up with Eliza because she may have already done the divide and conquer aspect of this to figure out
Yeah.
what section would be best for
Great.
you folks to prepare in first drafts that she can do. And then I'm
Yeah.
kind of focusing on the plan and the cost estimates. So.
Great, that would be good. I
See
mean, a
what-
lot of the questions are yes, no. I mean, there wasn't a whole
Yeah.
lot of real descriptive detail, unlike many other grant applications that are much more
Right.
complex.
Yeah.
So this really is intended to be an expedited process. This is just the third round of this grant program ever. They started it last summer during COVID as an attempt at DOT to make a more user-friendly process and for smaller and somewhat quicker, less complex kind of projects. So anyway, I'm glad we heard about it, even if it is a little bit at the last minute. Robert, did you have something else?
No, I'm good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay. All right, so I think with that, we'll call an end to the shared streets and spaces portion of this meeting. And those of you who want to disappear from that, you may. And we'll pick up with Joan and the COA grant opportunity that she's looking forward to. So thanks everybody for joining in. Really appreciate all the input, and thanks Rick especially for trekking out to Southampton to see it in person. I think that's really just really great to be able to have done that already so quickly. And Ed, I shared with you the scoping letter, which you just need to reply to. It doesn't even have to be signed. So you just need to reply to the email that would cover the Stantec involvement, and Rick is part of the Stantec pair that we've been talking to. Okay.
Okay, great.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye,
Chris.
all.
Thanks, Rick. Thanks
Yep.
for all your help.
All right, appreciate it much. Thank you. Okay, so back to other grant business. Hi, Joan. Hi, Janet. All right. So here we are, and I know we have your grant application to Highland Valley that's due at the end of May. So we have about another 10 days on that one, whereas we have literally 48 hours on this first one. So I'm going to kind of backtrack a little bit because I only attended a few minutes of your meeting the other day. And Kate, I know you were in on much more of it. So I'll let you guys talk about where things are and what kind of help you may need from us as the grant committee, okay?
Sure. I don't know, want me to take the lead, Caitlin, or do you want to talk about?
I think
you
that
were-
maybe review the email that Kelly sent back. I think you asked some good questions to her about, is this a good idea? And is this something that you'd recommend that we proceed with? So I don't know if you want to start there.
If I can find it.
Here, I could probably why don't I pull it up? I'm sure I can find it
Okay.
quickly. So Kelly is I guess she's the grant administrator, the contact at Highland Valley. And Kelly McCarthy, she said, she answered the questions in red. So the first question was,
You want to share that? Can I just pop it? I'll pop it up on the screen if that's easier.
Yep.
oh, great, perfect. So the question was whether or not we could collaborate with Huntington and Westhampton, and whether or not we get the funding just together, or if each community
Yeah.
would have to apply independently.
Can we backtrack a second? Because you guys changed the subject. I think when we first met as a grant committee, you all were talking about an outreach person, I believe. And now that's changed. The idea for the grant has changed to what you're calling a memory cafe. Is that right?
That's right.
Yes, it's
Okay.
a specific project.
Okay. And primarily for those with dementia, Alzheimer's, and their caregivers, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
That's helpful. And I kind of forgot that we had thought about something different, right?
Right.
So it seems like she said we could, one community would be the lead, right? So if we were to take the lead on this project, we would submit the proposal, and then the other communities could also have access to the funds, right? But it would be one budget, or we could do it completely separately where there would be 3 submissions. I think for ease of simplicity, if it's a collaborative project, it might be easier to submit it as one project. I'm not sure if that would seem more favorable. But Joan, I kind of wanted to ask you what your thoughts were on what this would actually look like between Huntington, Southampton, and Westhampton. With
I'll stop sharing this for now, okay?
Yes, so Kat Patterson is the chair. She's the chair. She's on the board in Huntington. She's the one that took the lead on the Memory Cafe, but it's an idea that I've liked for a long time. Can see it working here in Southampton. She has done a lot of research on it, but never participated in it. And I think questions, she said 8 and 11, she has expanded on, and she's already written whatever they, a dialogue about, or paragraphs on how the grant would work. I'm looking up a coordinator job description so we can have an idea of who the lead person would be coordinating this program. Right now in Hamden, it is their outreach person, but we don't have an outreach person. So there may be some hours for a coordinator. Huntington and us are not that close,
Right.
We may have to do separate cafes on different days. I think it may be difficult to share a grant, but anyway, she had some great ideas. She wanted to do it every month. She was trying to do 12 of them. I said, start smaller, like 6, and go from there and work on, the budget. But I have a call out to Hamden, who has had one for 4 years, and they're supposed to give me some more details about budget expenses. They have a private, somebody who's taking it over. They don't even need a budget for it anymore. A seed budget to start it, and then it was taken over by an organization. So they just hosting it at the senior center.
Now, is Westhampton
Maybe that'll
definitely,
work.
is Westhampton definitely wanting to be involved or not yet?
They're interested. They don't have a senior center. They have an 8-hour position per week of a director. She does everything. So they are interested.
So just so that I'm understanding logistics, sorry if I'm behind the 8 ball here. So this would be something that would be done in person at the senior center, for example, and then people would have to physically come to it. We're beyond the age of Zoom, right? So we're
There's
talking.
some
No,
places that are still
It can be
doing
done on
Zoom.
Zoom.
Oh, okay.
But it is also not until the fall of this year. So depending on where we're at from an opening standpoint, it could be start one way and switch to another. And
I see. Okay.
and then if we're going to have vendors with music and painting and
Right.
some kind of instructors, if we can do it live and have food and
Yeah.
some of the things we touched on, marketing, design for promotional pieces, and who we would partner with outside of other COAs.
Right.
I mean,
Now, how would people from Westhampton get here, for example, if it was an outdoor event or something at the senior center? Would we have to arrange their transport, or would they? I assume they don't have a van, or do they?
So no, they have volunteer drivers, but we've already had 2 meetings with FRT and Westhampton about extending our van to them and maybe doing a joint trip once in a while. So that's not a problem. That's been spoken about.
yeah, I think we could probably get approval from FRTA for 6 times a year to do something like that.
And I bet you that would, if you did it as a collaboration, it would make it more likely for you to receive the grant funding too, because that's something that they were specifically looking for, was collaboration, and it would provide access to a service that they don't currently have, right? It would enhance it would enhance both our outreach and their outreach. So I think it would make sense to start monthly. Most programs were offering monthly cafes, and maybe you could do the educational component almost as a supplement to that, as an additional service, maybe if it's going really well and it's well attended. Because when I looked in the North Shore, I guess there's a lot of these programs on the North Shore, very few memory cafes focus on caregiver education. It's more just really lighthearted, something fun to do, something to get out of the house that's less I don't know, caregiver focused. It's kind of just a place for them to go to kind of take a break. So maybe the educational component could be secondary to that, or, you know, separate. But they also said that if you were, say, for instance, you were to find a place to do one in Westhampton and also do one in Southampton, like the ones in different towns that are neighboring on the North Shore, they're open to any community. So like Southampton could go to Westhampton, or could, you know, like Salem can go to Beverly, you know, it's very open. And they're often hosted on different days of the week or days of the month, so that way, you know, maybe they could go to one place one week and another place, you know, a week or two later. So, you know, it can accommodate many different people's schedules. I did see that most of them are done during the day, which was surprising to me. I thought it was going to be like an evening thing, but at least that would coincide with your transportation, right?
Yeah.
Transportation, our senior center hours.
Right.
Although that could be flexible, but.
So that's, you know, that's great that, you know, people are able to attend those during the day.
Now, remind me that the maximum on this grant was $3,000. Is that right?
It said 8,000.
Oh, 8,000. 8,000.
8 is the max. It's 3 to 8.
3 to 8. Okay. And at what point do you know that you've been awarded the grant? How long does it take to go through the applications? Do you know?
It's going to be a few months. It's going to be probably August or September, because they want to do an interview. Once you get to a level where they've accepted it and they're granting it to you, there's an interview process.
Yeah, the last one didn't get awarded till October, I think, because their fiscal year, they're on the federal government fiscal year. So I think it would be for starting in the October timeframe. So.
Okay.
And you know, this is a 2-year grant, right? So Chris, if you get awarded $4 grand this year, you're going to get awarded $4,000 again next year. So, I don't know. They said that it's subject to funding, but it seems like that would be a reasonable budget for a 1-year monthly program. I mean, I guess you could get the feedback from that other program in Hamden about what their costs are.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't, you know, I would think that would be, I would hope that would be sufficient.
Yeah.
I think 4,000 be fair. I asked for 5 and got tight, so let's try 4.
Yeah. And what would that be, like a $400 budget for each
month, whatever
event? And that seems like, you know, if you spend a little bit more one month, maybe you could get a cheaper vendor the next month. And you think marketing. So I found out that our work actually did a memory cafe for a whole year. And they had trouble doing marketing and outreach, and that's what she said probably fell short. So I do think that that's going to be important to, you know, make it successful and well attended.
And you know, Hamden's are right around the same size that we are from a community standpoint, so they're a good benchmark for us to speak with.
Yeah,
I'd love to see their budget.
East Long Meadow, they have other communities going, so it's not just people from Hamden that go there.
Sure.
So East Long Meadow is those I know.
But yeah, their budget would be important to understand if they would share that with us.
Right.
You know, how many. Go ahead.
And you know, so is the idea, you mentioned the distance with Huntington, are you thinking Huntington would not necessarily be part of this, or?
Huntington is going to be key in helping me write this grant. And it may be separate, but she's done a lot of work on it, a lot of research, a lot of work, and she was very willing to share. So, you know, I talked to her. Her name is Kat Peterson. She's the volunteer board person.
So she might
works with Jennifer.
She might do one for Huntington by itself, is what you're saying, or?
Possibly.
Yeah, it's a little bit further for us to go from a van perspective for transportation. I don't know what transportation Huntington has at this point in time, but
they have FRTA as well.
They do.
So maybe, you know, once we could together somewhere.
Do you think
that would be fun?
A quick message to Michael to make sure from FRTA that, you know,
I have a special form, because we've done this, because remember we went to the there was an award ceremony over in the conservation land off of Glendale, And we got the van to do that. I mean, they're very open to having a special request with the van and the groups. And we already have talked to Westhampton. Huntington, I can approach out Huntington, but
But if they have a
very
van,
open to that.
That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So with all this, how do we pull it together in 10 days' time?
Well, 10 days is optimistic because I think it's due the Sunday before Memorial Day,
Oh,
which
So we're
eliminates,
saying,
you know, and Joan, we're open till the Thursday before Memorial Day. So
so there's
Oh,
about
I'm gonna-
four days to get it done. So I don't mind doing a draft. I think Ken offered to do the there one or two, whatever the
demographic questions.
Demographic. No.
Yeah, I said I would be
And,
happy to do a little research there. Another thing is to think about is no matter what, there's going to be the interview process, right? So if you write a draft proposal and it seems a little bit like you don't have all the details nailed down, they're going to come out and do an interview. And maybe that's the great opportunity where you can share, you know, listen, I've done all this research, I've collected all this information. I could even, you know, give you a list of vendors that we could reach out to if we were awarded the grant, such as painters, musicians, people that I could actually, performers that would be able to, you know, perform at the events.
Well,
You know, we could
they
start
may
pulling
want
all
that
that
in-
together afterwards.
yeah, but
Well, they want that in the grant only because we
Yeah.
were cited for not being developed
Yeah.
enough.
yeah,
that
I
was
think
the
you,
other
I think you've
citing.
got to be, you know, just speaking from a grant perspective on the other end of a grant program. I would want as many specifics as you can give me if I were reviewing an application, because that's going to make a difference to me. You know, if I were the reviewer, for example, Kate, to say that, okay, well, these
Right.
guys have really put a lot of work into it. They've thought it out. You know, nothing is nailed down necessarily, but you've got an idea that you want to do whatever, a music and arts program, or you want to do, I don't know, a basic culinary program. I mean, I don't know what it would be, but something, and you've gotten enough detail. It doesn't have to be, you know, into the minutia, but I think you want enough description to convince them that, this is really worth reading on more. I mean, I don't quite understand this interview process, frankly, for such a small grant. To me, this is a mountain of a grant process for small money. I really, nothing.
I
in
thought
my
the same
size-
thing, but it's only allows for 2,000 characters. I don't know how long that is, but 2,000
Well,
2,000 characters is not a huge amount of
right.
detail,
Well-
right? So that's is that a few
Yeah.
paragraphs?
Yeah, maybe a big paragraph, maybe, but I think that, you know, the best thing, if, you know, both, you know, you guys, you know, Joan and Kate with your background, and Janet too, chipping in from the COA board, you know, you've got probably the better knowledge than any of the rest of the three of us. So I would be fine if you wanted to, you know, do however much you can do, but then feel free to shoot it around. We don't have to wait for a meeting on some of this. We could just send it
Right,
around.
start working on it.
You know, we could, you know, put it in Google Docs, Kate, or something, and we could chime in, and, you know, put in a word or two here and there. I think Diana and I'll speak for Diana. Yes. we're more the distant partners in this one, maybe.
Why don't we do that? Why don't we create a Google? I can do this. So I'm off tomorrow. Why don't we create a Google, just like we have with other grants, create a Google folder where it's a shared document between us where we can all add in details. We can make comments on,
Yeah.
you know,
I've
it's
never
very
heard
simple.
of that. I'm eager to try that. That's great.
And
Yeah,
that
let's
way we
try not
can
to
kind of
erase them.
all work off the same document. And, you know, if we have questions, you can actually make comments for questions. So why don't I work on setting that up tomorrow? I have the RFA, so I can get that kind of started tomorrow.
We'll try not to erase anything.
It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. Everyone's like spooked by it, but it'll work out.
So I
And that
think
way we
maybe-
can put files in there. You know, it'll be a good place to collect some information. So I'll work on that.
Yeah.
Joan, I'd like to ask, you know, Nancy too, to kind of chip in on this too, because with her, you know,
Nancy
Nancy
Ruscio?
Ruscio,
She's at
yeah.
Mercy Life. Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe.
So which I could share it with her. When I
Yeah,
share it with
would
you
you do
guys, I
that?
could share. Yeah, I have her
Yeah,
email.
Yep, yep.
Yep,
And just, Joan, just let her know that Kate.
We're keeping her in the
volunteered
loop.
Yeah.
I'll shoot her a message.
kidding.
I'll let her
Okay.
know of
Okay.
what, I'll just give her a heads up that I'm sharing it with her.
I mean, I think it's a great idea. I just have had no real experience with it to be of particular value in terms of the topic. So I'm more than willing to let you guys run with it, and I'll be glad to chip in wherever I can. And I don't know, Ed, Diana, any thoughts you have on it? By all means.
Well, I was just thinking, do we have any statistics on how many truly elderly people we have? Would that be helpful? Something
So
like that?
define truly elderly.
I was
because that's-
just gonna say the same thing. What is truly elderly?
You're dealing with the wrong crowd.
We
then.
have none. We have none in Southampton.
Yeah.
We only have young elderly, not truly elderly.
No,
I
but we
mean,
can
we
put in demographics. I mean, I
Yeah,
think simple
we do.
demographics. I don't think we need, we're not going to be
Yeah.
able to pull data about like diagnosis, but
No.
it's also about caregiver respite too, or.
We have a good sense with the some of the lists we pulled when we were trying to make appointments for COVID vaccines. How many people over 90, how many people over 85? I mean, so we can do a demographics sort of based, not that
Yeah.
they're all gonna need a memory cafe, but
No.
I could use one on occasion myself, so,
Me too.
When I did my certification, Tufts has demographics of all kinds of things. I had
Yep.
to include that in my certification. So I will look for Tufts
pull
report
from
on
that.
Southampton. It may not
Okay.
be current, but it might be a couple of years old, but
That's
at
okay.
least it's something.
I think that's
That would-
fine.
That would be good. And I imagine, like you were just mentioning diagnostics, we probably don't know realistically, right, the numbers of seniors that might be in this pool of
no,
dealing with dementia or anything. We have no way of really knowing how many people might even attend, right? I mean,
right.
there's not a real way to say anything about that because it's supposed to be private information, right?
Yeah, and I don't know if
But-
they have done studies and a certain percentage of people 80 and over or 75 and over fall into that. I don't know if there's studies that have been kind of general like that or not, but
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
so
Okay.
we
But
can
I think
see.
Rini Groden, doesn't she work in home care or some kind of hospice? I don't
Yes,
know
yep.
if you have,
She's
Yeah,
a hospice nurse. Yeah.
Can you send it to Rini too? Because I know she's asked us about it, because she's our liaison from the select board and
Sure.
she's asked a couple times. Are you
I'll at
meeting?
least work on getting like the foundation set up tomorrow, so we have
Okay.
a place to work out of, and that's not a problem.
I mean, if
You
it
have
has to
the
be submitted on
form.
Friday, if we can pull everything together between now and next Thursday and then submit it on Friday. I mean, you can do that remotely, right, Joan? I mean, that's gonna have to be in the office to do that.
sure, right.
And do you know if the application is one where can you do it all in Word and then you have to cut and paste and put it in the online application, or?
Hmm.
It has
You
to be,
go, Joan?
you have to use their form, if that's what you mean, yeah.
Right, but
Yeah,
it's
but-
not
But you submit it online, right? You don't copy it and then scan it and
Right.
send it in.
Right,
It's like a
just
fillable
email.
form.
Yeah.
yeah. So the
So,
way
yes.
we've done it for other grants, guys, is just to write out all the answers to every question in Word and then have that Word document open and go and cut and paste from your Word into the online form.
Yep.
So that, because sometimes the online forms can kick you out. You start, you stop, sometimes you lose everything you've entered. Other times they'll let you save it and come back an hour later. So it really depends on how wonky their online program is, okay? So
Thank
Well,
you.
putting all the answers in Word first so you can just simply cut and paste is going to be your easiest way to go.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
we'll
leave
start
it-
out, we'll start in Google Documents so we can share it, and then
Right.
we'll take it from there.
Yeah.
So we just downloaded the form and
Yeah.
you really can't do anything with this form.
Right.
So, you're gonna have to cut and paste and put whatever you need.
There's
know.
an active document. You can go into active documents. I think it's through Highland Valley and you
Right.
can fill it out.
Yeah, no, you can fill it out, but I don't know that you can save it and go back to it and modify it and.
I think there is an option to do that, but I'm
Well,
not.
well, we
100%
can
We'll
make
see
it
if we
that.
can get it into Google Docs somehow, so at least we'll have a place to work, and then we'll figure
Okay.
out how to get it in there.
Okay.
Ed, have you familiar with the Memory Cafe? Not sure.
No, I
Okay.
don't remember anything about it.
Okay, so, yeah, it's
I
for,
forgot.
it's for,
You're just
it's
batting
for
2 for 2 today.
dementia and their caregivers. And so usually
it's a great
team
idea.
of 2 people.
Yeah.
And it gives a respite, some respite, and it gives, support group because you're with other people that are in the same boat.
Oh, nice.
So,
Okay. Diana, anything else? Yeah.
Well, do the people who come, could they come from nursing homes to take part in this? Because we do have that one.
if they're allowed to, I'm not sure. It depends on, the situation. Absolutely. I think in
No, we
Hampton,
have
they
that
have
one
people
nursing
coming
home.
from-
We have one nursing home in town. We could, perhaps get their support or somehow. Yeah.
We
What
do?
nursing home is in town?
Well, there used to be, they're near the apartments on College Highway and all that. Is it not there anymore? It used to be there. It's been a while, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not saying it is or isn't, Diana. I feel
Oh,
kind of
you
silly.
could go and sing Christmas carols there, but it's, like I said, it's been a while. I don't know. It was like in front of where Park Place is, around there.
Yeah, there's a 40B housing, rental property there.
Maybe that's what it became.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if that's the same location.
Okay,
I don't think there's actually a nursing home per se
all right
in
then.
town. Not that
Yeah,
I'm aware
never
of.
mind.
Well, I was feeling silly if there wasn't, and all these years later, I wasn't aware of it, so.
Oh, yeah, I can't.
That
even-
would be pretty bad if the COA director and the board chair didn't know that we had one in town.
But
Yep.
things have happened like that before, Joan. Anything's possible. So
Yeah.
if there was one, because Diana's been around a lot longer than I have in the
But it's
town.
been a long time. It's since my sons were little,
Uh,
and-
Okay.
So, yeah,
How old are they now?
32 and 28.
Yeah,
been a
that's
while.
a little while ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Okay, so why don't we,
All
leave it
right.
that you guys are gonna, Kate will get it in Google Docs, you guys can, and the good thing about Google Docs is anybody can get in at any time. It doesn't matter. All 6 of us could be in there at the same time. It doesn't really matter. It knows what your comments are and it'll say last edited by, Janet Kane and, so your comments are,
Yeah.
there and people can
Okay.
see them. So it's an easy way to share a document and kind of work on it all at the same time without, worrying about everybody else's,
Okay.
Yeah.
permissions, etc. So I think over the
Sounds like a
weekend,
plan.
over the weekend in your free spare time, put in a few words here and there, and it shouldn't go too bad because again, it doesn't look like it's terribly lengthy in terms of the application.
It's very short.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, great.
And
But I
and
think,
it's Joan's birthday on Monday, so she's gonna be partying all weekend.
oh
So
my
what you
God.
see from
Oh,
Joan, you might want to edit by Tuesday.
yeah, really.
So.
Mhm.
Yeah, Tuesday. Be back Tuesday.
Well, and if you do have ideas, I would think if you do have ideas of, whether this might involve some music or arts or whatever, try to think of some folks amongst your normal connections that might be willing to be the performers or the whatever,
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
vendors during such an event and get a little bit of specificity as much as you can, I think would be good though. But
And I know
I could ask around here too, because we have some talented performers that come here on a pretty regular basis.
great.
And I'm sure they would be interested. They're very local.
And I know dealing with Cooley Dickinson Hospice a few years back, that they had people that came in, they offered to play the harp, they offered to do things for entertainment. So, their groups will just have to pick their brains. And people like Greenie and Kate and Nancy have those kind of connections.
Yeah,
You don't want
perfect.
me
And I like
to-
the culinary piece too, because the food bank came in and did like a cooking demonstration or something. Culinary is gonna be good too.
I
Yeah.
could get my work to come in and do a brain healthy cooking demonstration.
Yes.
There's,
They came, I remember
yeah,
came to us. I forgot.
yeah,
her
they would
name,
do,
but
they would
she
do
was
something
in-
like that, as
Yeah.
part of community outreach. So
Okay.
Okay, well, why don't we call that way? And I think we probably need to meet again next week, same time, same place, guys. So unless anybody's got a better idea, I think next
So
Wednesday would
2:30?
probably, yeah,
2:30,
2:30.
Chris? Yeah.
2:30, because this other one will be out of our way by then. It's done.
Right.
It's got to be off our plate because it's due Friday. So you guys would be first up in terms of the agenda.
And I'd like to get some feedback. So the next step for the park grant was for Dan to talk to Sunya.
Right.
And I kind of reached out and asked if there was any updated information and gave a little bit of a nudge. But my hope would be that we'd have some feedback from parks by next week as well.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I didn't know when they might be meeting next. I hadn't seen them on the schedule, so I wasn't
It's
sure.
something like June, middle of June, I think. Or they weren't really planning on having another
Yeah.
meeting. So Dan was hoping that they kind of have permission for a subcommittee or, just like to be able to work on it a little bit more independently.
Okay, all right. Well, good. Well, we'll have an update on the parks grant idea next week. That's fine. Good. Well, I think that's it. And I think, Kate, we don't have any minutes to review, right? At this point in time, I know you've been busy, so that's fine.
That's part of my goal for this next week is maybe try to get some minutes all set for
Sure.
the next meeting.
Not a problem, guys. I really appreciate it. So I think with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn and we will reconvene next Wednesday at the same time. So can I have a motion? Yep. Okay. And a second?
I'll make a second.
All right. Roll call, please.
Fetterman, aye.
Brooks, aye.
Fowles, aye. Okay, we will
And
call.
thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah. Well,
Thank
you.
For
you.
leave us.
No, I think it's a good idea. It's exciting. So I hope we
Yep.
can help. you
I'm
think-
excited about the sidewalk. I know it seems selfish, but
And yeah, Joan, you need an email to Chris tomorrow, right? About
Yeah,
the
I'll make a
senior
a
walking
letter
group and
of support. I got it
Yes,
at the top of
perfect.
my list.
Good.
that.
Thank you
yeah.
very much. Yeah.
It's a big
Thank
top,
you.
Joan.
All right.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and I'm glad I didn't know whether historical and cemetery were going to have more to say, but I'm glad they didn't have much more to say. I wasn't
me
sure.
too.
I wasn't
too.
sure where we were aiming there. So
Bye, everybody.
taking the ball and run with it. But anyway, so yeah, and thanks everybody.
All right,
Bye-bye.
have a good day.
All right,
Thank you.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye now.